Welcome to the Stupid Monkey Philosophy Channel, a Trusty Ape co-production. I'm your host, Kevin Chaos. Don't forget to subscribe, share the content with your friends. If you are able, please consider supporting the channel via one-time donation to my PayPal account, monthly subscription to my Patreon, or by purchasing downloadable music content via my Reverb Nation or Bandcamp pages. Links in the description below. For inquiries and collaborations, please contact me at stupidmonkeyphilosophy@gmail.com. That's stupidmonkeyphilosophy, all lowercase, all together, at gmail.com. Thanks for watching.
Man, I really need to fix that intro. Well, hopefully it looks like everything is going smoothly. Somebody here in the back room. Welcome to come back. I sent out a few links for this. I'm sharing the video now. This is the Trusty Ape Streams Again. And here I am. Semi-open room. By invite, of course. I'm not putting it in the Descript or anything this time. But if I know you, you know how to get a hold of me. Can get you a link, and it'll be great. It will be great. I've got a little bit of time to spare. I was having a pretty good morning, chatting on Wild Heart's channel with a few people, and decided, today is the day. Now's the time. Let's just do it, right? Just do it. So, sent out a few links. Hopefully, some peeps want to show up in chat. That's cool. Pretty much open anything. I've been studying in John Locke and Plato recently, so that's kind of been my little thing, what I'm reading over here, and pretty much, all those good old-fashioned issues that we secularists tend to be interested in, like, where do we derive our meta-ethics from, and morality and some such nonsense. How do you get good without God? Well, I don't know. Some kind of trick to it. We haven't discovered it yet, but there's a trick there. Oh. I feel fine, thank you. So yeah, I just decided to fire up this stream, share out a couple links, and kind of see what happens. Richard Madsen and I started to chat a little bit, got derailed over there on Wild Heart's channel about kind of the nature of transcendent consciousness and what people call the spirit and the soul. And I was saying, well, basically in my worldview, that there is some form of your mind that is transcendent from your body, because if you have the capability to kind of have this impact on future humans, right? If you can write a book or make a movie or a song and record that, and enough people share it and relearn that information, it becomes incorporated into the society, into the greater mind of the hive mind of people. Right. And so we have these ideas that transcend the physical person. And so to me, that is what is indicative of what is called the spirit or the soul. And I think Richard was semi-agreeing with me. I'm not sure. We didn't really get into the conversation too much, but that'd be cool to continue on. I see SPM in the chat. Love you. Yeah, I was going to do like a tour of the Patreon page. Maybe we can do that for people. That was the only other thing I had in mind, other than kind of open chat, open room, just kind of vibing this morning. Patreon. So for those of you who are not awesome and subscribe to the Patreon page. Get a little kind of glimpse of what you get on Patreon, because I'm doing a lot more shows on there now. I'm doing Answers in Genesis reviews bi-weekly on there whenever they post them. And this is a page. I'll get more fancy with the graphics and stuff. It's just like me on a boat and some shit I drew on my phone. But whatever, hey. And I've got several videos up here now that are pretty lengthy. We got the Cringe Watch with AIG News. I've done 2 of those so far. Of course, I'm trying to post regular content like this on Patreon, which I should have done, but didn't. Heard It on the News is the new thing we're doing Fridays, tentatively. Every Friday we'll do Heard It on the News. And then I've got some other reviews I've done on, like, Standing for Truth. This is just a kind of a breakdown of isms. The thumbnail is not actually related. It's a little confusing, but here we have, that's the transcendental argument I got. I think this was the one of the Standing for Truth videos. I did SFT and another person, and then this one here, against so-called atheopagans, one of my early videos. And so when you come to the Patreon, you can get the choice to, how do I do the view? Well, let's just look at membership. So there's 3 tiers now. The smallest tier is $3 a month. Gets you patron recognition. Everyone gets patron recognition. SPM. That's you. A monthly Ask Me Anything, which I haven't done yet, because once there's more people involved, that will be more relevant, I think. Any kind of open rooms or links to streams to join panels are going to be in this Patreon project. $5 a month gets you the sticker, and the other 2 perks, right? More stickers and merch coming soon, hopefully. And then $10 a month. I said I was going to get you bonus content. I don't know what that means, but there's already bonus content there. So at any tier, if you subscribe right now, you're going to get bonus content. That's kind of the whole perk of the Patreon thing. So, but I will be producing more and hopefully get better quality as we go. Yeah, I've posted a few videos over there. If you're like, I like straight up smoked a joint on the last stream before watching Answers in Genesis, because I was like, I'm gonna need this. So check that out on the Patreon page if when you're so inclined. I'm kind of hanging out right now. I was chilling with Wildheart for a couple hours, and Plastic Jesus, Richard Madsen, some other cool peoples. And then I decided to open this one up, invited Richard and some other folks as well. Just kind of getting back out there. I'm waiting, biding my time. I have to go and do a bunch of stuff today. So it's going to be great. It's going to be great. We're just going to try and make the best of it. Did not have the greatest last couple of weeks, but I feel like I'm bouncing back pretty well. And and it's just made me want to do a lot more of this. Just stream, get out there. I've been trying to hang out with people in public again and stuff. Jason. Good to see you, Jason Jacoby. I don't think I've seen you here on the channel before, but I remember you from the chat this morning or something somewhere. Awesome. Excellent to see you here. SPM, thank you. Whether they come to the stream, want to join the panel, I mean, that's great. We can do a panel. We can, I'm testing the capabilities of the internet connection out here. I've had a bit of lag, which is one of the reasons I've been staying off camera mostly, because I'm like out in a detached shed behind the house. Yes, that's where I remember you from. Yes, Oz's show last night, very compelling. I was definitely felt honored to be there and hear those stories. The gentleman I subscribed to him, but I think on my other channel, but now I'm not remembering his name. Great story and a great explanation about how he used to be like a devout evangelical, but as a deconvert, he still felt, well, at the time with the information that I was given, I still thought I was doing the best thing for people, for other people, even if it was evangelizing. And I think that's really powerful and true for many people. Like you might have a bad view, but you're still espousing it for the right reasons, which is really strange, right? You're like, you really feel that you're gonna do. Brady Goodwin. All right, thank you. Fanatic, I think, is the handle. Fanatic he's using. But yeah, but Brady Goodwin. Very compelling story. Love that. Yeah. I've been kind of hanging out, lurking around. As you see, I meet interesting people lurking in other people's streams, and just hanging out and doing more listening, less talking. Some of the time, I like to talk a bit. Um, I do enjoy the sound of my own voice on occasion, but not most of the time. Most of the time, it's like just gouge my eyes out. Damn. I was watching this. I've just recently subscribed to Secular Opinion, who I heard about through Miss Parker, and they're doing some pretty funny streams. Oh, it looks like Wild's still going over there. I thought he would pass out by now. I'm sorry, I'm being a little facetious there. Where is it? Secular Opinion is checking out a lot of the usual suspects. You got Shanny, you got G-Man, you got the Rev, and he did a recent one, a catch-up stream on Von Helton, and I thought it was just great. It was hilarious. So I don't know. We'll check this out. I might post a few more links to join and see if anybody wants to jump in on this one, but we'll go for it. This is Secular Opinions channel. This is the recent Von Helton catch-up stream. And we're going to fast forward a little bit. I'm going to mute the mic. So here we go.
Once again, I'm speaking with Dr. Joshua Bowen. He is an Assyriologist. I mean, is that what you would lead with?
Too much. There is such a thing as too much of a good thing, right? You have to be very, very careful because you could be at the tipping point, the teetering edge of falling over the cliff and descending into a downward spiral of lul's madness. Okay, so proceed with caution. If you're new, you may want to take a break and watch this tomorrow. I know you're high. You're on the high of it. You're in the afterglow of the lulls. Don't let it deceive you. Many a good milker over the years has fallen. But folks, if you are a veteran and you're looking for a palate cleanser, we got it. We got to get caught up with some Von Helton the last couple days. The pendulum is finally swinging his way, folks. So we'll get all caught up, and then we're prepared for whatever new lulls may come our way this week. So thank you for joining me once again. We're going to have a little late night, a little midnight madness. And we're going to take a look at the streams that he and the infamous J-Dubs did together on the 24th and the 25th. And this was captured by Todd Malacote.
Because I'm like a stuffed turkey for Thanksgiving. Stick me with a fork. I'm all done.
Devil's Reject has just donated £2.49 through Super Chat.
Thank you very much. I do appreciate that. Thank you very much, folks. Let's so we're starting with the 24th. Let's do it again. These are screen captures posted by Todd Malacote. So let's do it. Nice. Strong start. Oh, you missed it.
From YouTube who
Folks,
think they're smarter than you.
That was a beautiful entrance. I can't let that one go by. I gotta share it with you. Sorry, but I do apologize. Here, let's go full screen. Doing it hardcore. Folks, here we go. Right from the top.
And they're the ones that matter. They're
I think he incidentally muted the stream here for a few seconds, so we're going to go back and re-listen. This is one of the most disgusting things I have seen on YouTube, as far as just completely irreverent people just streaming about nothing and being completely disengaged from each other in conversation, in public. Like, we just do not, well, I mean, you could see as much at your local bar, any night you go down there.
Oh, it's still muted. I apologize.
there you go. That's it.
There you go.
God damn it. I was complaining about G-Man earlier. I'm almost as bad. I'm sitting here breathing into the mic, hit the wrong mute. So, folks, since we're all together, let's take it from the top one more time. Thank you very much.
And they're the ones that matter. Their opinion is the one that matter. Not the opinions of fools and idiots from YouTube who think they're smarter than everyone else. The gods' opinions are the only ones that matter.
All right.
All right.
Put a little salt, a little pepper.
Yeah, ma'am.
I'm keeping up with the gods.
This is what I like to use.
Oh, yeah. Morton. Yeah. Well, that's what I use, Morton. Himalayan.
Yeah, I like to use pink Himalayan salt.
Oh, okay. What's the difference now? You got to tell everybody what the difference is. What's the difference?
I have no idea what's the difference. All I know, it comes from the Himalayas.
And it's pink. Yeah.
It's a monk in an orange dress. Picked it out of the mountains, I guess.
There you go. That's it.
There you go. That's a big sweater.
Okay, I have a riddle for you guys. What's the difference between Von Helton and a pound of salt? A pound of salt is worth something.
What do you want, Midnight? No, you're not getting my hot dog by the bond. No, you're not. It's my hot dog, and I'm eating it.
Looks nice.
By the Von.
Oh, yeah. They're cooking up real nice.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the way I make an omelet, when I make an omelet by the John, what I do is I fry up the onions and the peppers, and I make them soft.
Mm-hmm.
And once they become soft, then I add the egg,
Mm-hmm.
so that when you're eating the omelet, it's nice and, it's not crunchy. You know what I mean? You got a hard onion.
Mm-hmm. But some people like crunchy, so. What do you want, Midnight? You're not getting my hot dog. Besides, I just ate it. I ate my hot dog. Besides, you already had a hot dog tonight. Go lay down. In fact, you had two. Well, you had
That
one.
is correct. You are correct, sir. It's pink and it's Himalayan.
But it's pink and it's Himalayan, and so by God, there we go. You know, that's it. No fucking clue if it's.
Are
any
they being
different from
racist
regular
about
but
salt?
hey,
Is that what?
it's pink and it's Himalayan.
Someone get
So,
a hold
hell
of
yeah.
T-Man now!
I'm Sorry Wilson donated $5 through Super Chat. If J-Dubs wants to show just how messed up in the head he is, he should quit being a bitch and start swallowing razor wire instead of nails.
Ah, yeah.
Fucking vicious. That was vicious. That was great. Richard Madsen, great to see you. Peace and respect. I did link you on Facebook if you wanted to join. I was very interested in resuming the conversation we were having earlier, but yeah, only if you have some time or whatever.
Yeah. Well, it's a good suggestion. I think someone should pass that along to him next time. I'm not endorsing or supporting folks. YouTube, if you're listening, and I know you are, you just got to roll with. Anyways, folks.
Mm. I will have the documents that were sent to me filled out and turned in bright and early Monday morning, and then that way we'll get the ball rolling on that shit.
Garlic. Do we have any garlic? Oh, jeez Louise. Oh,
That's why I'm hoping. That's why I'm hoping that that this PDF viewer will let me print, because I got to be able to print them out, and I got to be able to print. The fuck you find? Uh oh. What am I hearing? Am I hearing something? What am I hearing, Doug? I ain't got no food. Go lay down. She's looking like, you got food? You got food? You got food? No,
You
I ain't
want an
got no
omelet,
food.
baby?
I ain't got no food. Nope, no food.
Probably because the dog's starving, Vaughn.
No food, man. Nope.
Oh, yeah.
So you're not
We can
eating
edit.
now?
I am eating now.
Oh, sweet.
We can edit, convert. Presses. No. I can't believe Acrobat Reader is now, they want to charge now, man. I can't believe it. That's crazy. Excuse me. Yeah, when you Google a free Acrobat Reader, and you put it in a Bing search or a Google search or whatever it is you're using, it'll give you a link, free Acrobat Reader by Adobe. Okay, well, when you click on it, it doesn't take you to the free Acrobat Reader because it doesn't exist anymore. It takes you to regular Acrobat, which you have to pay for. So apparently the free reader no longer exists. At least that's my understanding as it is right
So
now.
we're gonna head over. We're gonna kill the YouTube link, and we're gonna head over to Odyssey where we have free speech. So those who want to continue the show will come watch us over on.
Yep, you're gonna have to watch us on Odyssey because we can't talk freely here. And as Microsoft, listen to me. And as Monograph is so fond of saying, if you can't speak freely, you truly are not free. And he's 100% right on that. He is 100% right on that. So,
Don't worry,
First
folks.
zip lining and now Kama Sutra?
The internet issues here clear up for him, so it's smooth sailing once he moves past this little rough patch, folks. Since you're here, you might as well thumbs up the video. I'm just saying.
Just let me know if Odyssey is up and running.
As interesting as all that was. Oh, this is smoking. Oh, my bad. All right. Well, Richard might be a minute. Yeah, so they start having some internet connection there. It's just like a very I don't understand these IRL streamers. They're just like, it's every moment. They it sometimes disturbs me because I do feel compelled to like post my location and stuff like that, just because I historically have been kind of a very free spirited person, and tend to kind of end up in these like weird situations and places. And so I want people who give a shit to know like where I am at any given moment, just in case something out of the ordinary happens, because it does tend to. Um, yes, that was Von Helton. Which I haven't heard his name in quite a while around these circles, but yeah, that was Secular Opinions channel, doing a lot of these cringe watch catch up streams. Take Richard out until he comes back. He's like, it says don't bring in. My bad, my bad. I felt like I was getting behind here. But yeah, no, I think we'll have a much more productive conversation over here right now. As much fun as I have on Wild Hearts channel, sometimes it's hard to kind of proceed with the conversation you're trying to have when there's enough voices kind of chiming in and stuff. So that's why I kind of try to keep limited space in my open rooms for the most part. It's nice to have those panels of 10, but it's nice to have a conversation with like 2 or 3 people where everybody gets to have a say, and it can be fun. It can be productive. Yeah, Richard said be there in 10. I thought that was a much quicker 10 than I thought. Like, so yeah, subscribe to Secular Opinion if you're into that type of stuff. And Miss Parker, of course, drag somebody I was trying to get on the channel, but he has a speaking fee for. Well, anyway, I get it. What? Yeah, John. What's up, John?
Hey,
How you doing, bro?
I saw you sent me a link, so I just popped in. So, what are
Love
you
it.
doing?
Well, I was over here streaming. I was over on Wild Hearts channel, and Richard and I started having a conversation kind of about how consciousness can sometimes in some ways transcend the physicality of the person. But we weren't able to make a lot of headway, but I thought that'd be interesting to pursue. So right now I'm like just hanging out. I've got errands to do later, so I thought I would post this, man.
And so, is Richard coming over? Or?
Yeah, he's smoking right now. He's gonna be in like a second. He said like 10
Okay.
minutes. That was, yeah.
And then, consciousness transcending physicality. Huh.
So my argument was that if your definition of like the spirit is the fact that things that people do transcend their physical existence, and like I can write a book or record an album and that thing might outlive my physical body, then I could call that something of a transcendent being, right? Like,
Well, yeah, I mean, because there's a whole lot of things that our minds do that even though they're still based in physicality because they're a product of your brain, they can transcend that physicality, like because humans can come up with concepts and ideas and fictions that would never be possible in the real world, but we can think of them. And the fact that you think of them, and that and then if you share that with other human beings and it becomes an idea in the zeitgeist, then yeah, it's absolutely transcended the physical. But when you talk about the origins of it, or you talk about not the origins, but like we're like when we're I can't like the antecedent you know line of previous things that happened, like when you look to see where the concept or idea came from, then you have to point to the physical because it came from a human mind. But I see what you're saying. The actual thing itself, like you mentioned, like if you did an album or something, you could be long gone. I mean, especially now in today's day and age too, with how much we can share information online and everything. And I noticed that people can listen to music now from back when the first phonographs were invented. I mean, you can listen to, so yeah, you're right. I mean, somebody who creates art, whether it's music or whatever, it's going to last longer than them. And then you can say that definitely transcended their physical form.
But with like a God concept, it's like there has to be a mental singularity at the end of the chain. And that's the thing that's kind of incongruent, right? Like you can't think of a single mind that can share information with itself. Like that's just a mind. Like it only matters if there's another mind involved.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, I mean, and then well, and that's just it is, and then when you talk about achievements, I think that a lot of human beings are selling themselves short when they achieve something or create something or, whatever you want to call it. And then they stand aside from it and they give all credit to God. Like, I just wish they would realize, no, that wasn't God. That was you. You did that. Give yourself credit.
Yeah, take credit for your achievements. It's especially actually more bothersome to me when there's like athletes, like people who are performing like physical tasks, and it's like, no, God definitely did not give you. I mean, you could say maybe if you think God gave you willpower, but like in any like if you're being logical, God was, if anything, impeding you from completing that task, and you had to battle against the forces like that were present.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just I don't know. Sometimes I feel as an atheist that's what I'm doing when I talk to some theists is I'm battling God.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I mean, in most cases, that is that's the scenario you're dealing with. I mean, it's not me; it's God, and God's word is higher, and all this stuff. Like, and how can you compete with that ever? But that is why I, am unpopularly as an atheist, a secularist, a free will proponent, because I don't believe that free will comes from the divine. I believe free will comes from within. Looks like Richard's here, so I'll put you up in the
Well,
room.
and the other thing though is that if the Christian worldview is correct and the God of the Bible does exist, free will cannot exist. Okay, I mean it's just real simple. If God knows every instance of everything that's going to happen in every instant of time, from the beginning of time to the end of time, how can anybody have free will? If he knows what decision I'm going to make before I make it, well, then how do I have free will? But at any rate, hey, Richard.
Peace and respect, John. Long time no see, Kev.
So, well, look, and don't think this has anything to do with you, Richard. You know I love you, but I was just getting ready to work out when I got this link from Kevin. I said, well, I'm going to go in there and see what's going on. And now that he has somebody else here to chat with, I'm going to head out.
John, I love you. Where are you going?
Well, like I said, I was just getting ready to do my daily workout, and
All right.
I gotta do that, man. But hey, I just got back to doing this shit again, and we'll see. We'll get together again for sure.
I appreciate your
That's
brand,
why I
John.
said I don't want you to think. That's why I said I don't want you to think it has anything to do with you showing up. I just came in here to give Kevin some company until you got here. So.
Well, we all know you're scared. That's what's really going
Yep.
on there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, guys. You have a great day.
It was great talking to you, John. Thank you for coming by. Yeah, hopefully we'll talk soon. John's doing a new thing Sunday mornings, for those of you who don't know, over at the Amateur Conversationalist with Speed of Sound and Scott Duke, some other folks. Go check that out if you haven't. Richard, hey, thanks for coming by, man.
Thanks for inviting me. I appreciate that. That's a huge compliment that I am not ignoring. Okay, so where were we over there at Wild Hearts before you got very distracted?
Yeah, I kind of what we were delving into a few minutes ago. John and I was this concept that that something you create can transcend your physical body. So an individual who is conscious can create some body of work that can outlive them personally, right? And so that's how we get the Bible, how we get many ancient texts and great works of art and literature.
Yeah, all the aesthetics.
So I was kind of trying to meld that into the idea of what a lot of people think of as soul or spirit. And I don't know how that kind of.
I think that's the only connotation you can take of the individual spirit. Like it's. I think what I personally read is spirit of an individual is more akin to spirit of the Cowboys football team. You know, it's a collective overall idea, and that's significant in and of itself. But there's no as far as I can tell, and in my personal experience, there's no spirit of Richard which is separate from Richard. You know?
Wait. But so your ideology in that sense, though, if it was whether it was an ideology for a sports team or a political ideology, say a national ideology, is not necessarily separate from your person.
No, like if you're a humanitarian, then you have to do humanitarian things. So I could say the spirit of Trusty Ape is humanitarianism. You know?
I would say that's in conflict, though, because much of my view is anti-humanist. I mean, I have humanitarian properties, but in many ways, I am
well, whatever
not.
it is you hold to. Whatever it is you hold to, that's the spirit of you.
And if that thing changes over time, would you call that like an evolving spirit or a changing spirit?
That'd be fair. Sure.
Okay. So the spirit is not like a fixed thing.
No, I wouldn't think so. I mean, certainly in the Christian Bible, the idea of repentance and changing of the spirit, that a person can have a view and that can change and they evolve over time. They receive new information and accept it as real to the best they can understand it, you know? I mean, I know that happened with me. I was a hardcore anti-theist.
So was there like a particular thing you can point to that converted you from anti-theist to I guess deism would be the appropriate term, right?
Yes, I was in doubt that there could be something in these ancient stories that would show knowledge that the authorship, the time period, the geographical location could not provide. And then I found one of those things. Not that I wanted to find it, not that I was searching for it, but I found it quite by accident. And then when I found it, I thought, again, it must certainly be wrong. that can't be a fact of reality. And then I looked for it, not knowing that it could be true. I thought it couldn't be true, and it was true. And to be specific, that was reading of the books of Enoch, where Enoch mentions Enoch being in somewhere in North Africa. Enoch mentions that there are 14 non-deciduous trees, not to be confused with conifers. It includes 2 things that aren't conifers, but they are non-deciduous. And he states exactly how many there are, and there's no way they could have known that in that part of the world at that time. That was the first thing, literally.
That's interesting. I believe I remember you mentioning this on your show with Mac a while ago. So
Yeah, I'm pretty boring.
No, I don't mean to say that. It's consistent,
I think
because I
so.
remember you saying this before. And my question about that is, why is it not? Do you think it's logically plausible that maybe Enoch had received, or whoever wrote the book of Enoch had received this information from other sources who had traveled, so they would know this? It's not that you presume that person was isolated from the information, but maybe that had not been the case because of some other source, right?
Well, that's obviously true. Whenever information is outside of someone's experience range, that involves communication from some source, which has to be sentient, that does know it. And that's always the case. That's learning. But the problem is that you could not have had someone in that area who knew that, because there were no people that had traveled all of the earth, especially when certain parts of the earth were unknown to exist.
Well, that's only according to the Latin speaking, the Mediterranean world at that time, right? I mean, that's basically who we're sourcing, which we know now that there were other cultures who were more well traveled at that
right.
point.
But to be specific, one of them is in Australia. One of those
that would be
trees.
anomalous, but not out of the realm of possibility, I would think.
And one of them is in the Appalachian Mountains.
I mean, I don't have the historical knowledge. I feel that there might be some other human connection there.
Well, there's a sentient connection for sure.
So I don't want to derail our conversation in that and get mired in that.
Okay.
Let's see. We got a comment from Jason here. Many times when a document is translated, the translator has to substitute information. Do you agree with that?
Somewhat, and somewhat not. Here's why. I can say truthfully, there's been more changes to the Bible by the time it got to King James than there are words in the King James. And that is technically correct. And I can also say something like Hebrew and Greek prepositions and conjunctions and things like that differ from the English. So yes, the words themselves got changed more times than there were words because the number of languages it went through. And yes, there's interjected ideas that simply aren't part of the original ideas. But I'm not using the King James, etc., for anything besides a glossary, just a way to find things. And then I go back to the oldest languages that we have, and I look at the definitions of the words one by one. So the whoever that was, that they're right, but of course, that's not exactly what I'm doing.
I don't think that was an attack on you personally.
No, I didn't think so.
That was Jason, by the way. Jason. But I mean, I do think it highlights an issue that we're going to have with any historical document, where if there is a discrepancy in the translation, you're always going to have that problem. It will be present in the argument until you can get a general consensus, right?
Yeah. Well, I'm not sure a consensus is accurate.
You think maybe the consensus could be wrong then, is what you're saying?
Yeah, historically, we've often been wrong in consensus. The sun rises. No, it doesn't.
I guess that's an observational point
Right.
rather than a factual one. Yeah.
Right. But by your experience, it looks like the sun does rise, but of course it doesn't.
Well, in frame of reference to us, the sun is rising.
Sure.
It's only in the context of being very literal that it is not, right? Because if I'm standing at a fixed point, according to my position, the sun is rising.
Unless you're on the space station, in which case the sun doesn't rise.
Right.
Right.
Very strange thing to think about. So I don't know, to pull it back a little bit to the reference to the mind. And in my view, from everything I've heard and read and stuff, it seems to me that the fact of God, if you're presupposing the fact of God, you presuppose a singular mind at some point in history, right? And this singular mind had to create other minds with which to interact. And that to me becomes kind of like paradoxical. It doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make any sense. I agree with you. I'm glad that the Bible and no other religion claims such a thing, and that it's only practitioners that claim it, and that's inaccurate to the text.
Okay, so you don't perceive of a point where God singularly existed and then created all other entities?
As far as I can tell, there are beings older than human, and they were powerful beings. But when you look up Elohim, it doesn't dictate whether or not they were benevolent or malevolent. I believe, according to the story, they were actually malevolent, and they were the slave keepers. And it is after Adam that there is Yahweh. That is man-made God, because man needs God so that a society can prosper. And I don't think any other claim like Christians are claiming is a necessity of the text. I'll give you a for instance. I made the stars also. Well, the isn't there, right? I is there, and made and stars is there. And also the word also is not there. But if you look at the definitions of the words, that's, I, like having personage, and then made as in to create, but it's creation by reforming and repurposing something. And then stars is actually clumps or piles of stars. Okay. So it's groupings. And then it says what the stars are for. It reads in the same 2 pages. What the stars are for those clumps of stars are for tracking days and seasons and times. And if I ask, well, how do we know where we are in the universe, and how do we know what time of year it is, and how do we know, what day of the year it is, what sign we're in? Those are clumps of stars. We call them constellations. But constellations, of course, that word didn't exist to those people at that time. So you couldn't have wrote constellations. You'd write clumps of stars. So it's evidently true that we do use the stars that way. That's just a fact of our reality. But it means to repurpose those clumps of stars. That is to say, from this particular point of view, in our 16-minute across circle around the sun, we see the constellations in a certain way, and we use that to track time. That is, they were repurposed. Now, a person could have the idea that any grouping of stars, like say Dagon, Draco, that those stars are of different sizes and they're equidistant, and they make that formation no matter where you look at it from. That's just not true. If you didn't look at Draco, Dagon, from this particular point in space, you would not see that constellation.
Which is another issue of simply just the perspective from which you look at the thing.
Yes.
Okay, so, and from what it sounds like, your interpretation of Genesis is completely kind of congruent with the Big Bang, right? Like that's kind of the.
Well, it doesn't address it necessarily directly, but if I go down the line of necessary logic, it's definitely not singular, powerful being with personage creates everything in the universe. After all, right after it says created Earth, which is again reform, repurpose, it says, and the Earth was void and formless. And the word formless there means having area distinctions. In other words, it was all one thing. And we know from science that it was all one thing.
It was essentially a ball.
Yeah, just a ball of dirt and rock. It's just all minerals. And we know that's how the planet started out. And then it goes through a logical progression that we know is true in science, that first you have to have atmosphere, then you can have water, then you can have simple life forms, then complex life forms, and eventually us. So I don't see an argument there, but the Big Bang is just simply not addressed. The topic is this planet and nothing else, and our perspective from this planet and nothing else. So it's kind of like two 7-year-olds, my daddy's bigger than yours. These theists arguing over their God, and it's come to the point where, well, my daddy made the universe. It's just ridiculous, and it's not in the story.
So I guess from there I'll ask, why, in your opinion, why do you think that there are so many incongruencies within the religion, particularly Abrahamic religion?
No, I think that's just what the people. It's just my daddy's bigger than yours. They have built on it over the thousands of years, and gotten to a point of incredulity. They have gotten to a point where it's just insane.
But what do you think is like the biggest discrepancy, or is there one you could point to, or maybe a couple that create the biggest rifts within this belief structure?
Oh my gosh. Too much human extrapolation in bad logic. I think that's the answer. I mean, you could say a specific thing. I can name lots of Christian assertions that are inconsistent from within their own belief system, within their own Bible.
Well, I mean, going with maybe this isn't your argument, but a very common argument is, this text is the perfect word of God. Clearly it is not. If so many people misinterpret it, is not perfect text. Right, that's just got to be the logical answer to me. So where do these imperfections lie? Like, where are they most prominent?
Well, they actually lie in the human mind, and in church tradition and doctrine. And if the church fathers were right, and they all got inspiration for understanding from the Holy Ghost or directly from God, then they would all agree, or God's a liar. Or God chose one sect of Christianity over all the rest, and that doesn't make sense. I go with Matt Dillahunty. They can't all be right, but they could all be wrong.
So you think it's mostly human intervention, basically, these people inserting their ideas into the Gospels?
Well, I think that we are innocent because we are ignorant and we just don't know any better. And we get these ideas not from our own minds, but we perpetuate them and expound on them to the ridiculous. We do that.
So is that Satan then? Would that be the evil? The concept of evil is coming into the mind, or something like that?
There is at least the conceptual idea of evil in that for certain. But I say that we're innocent, that we're just ignorant, which is why grace is extended in the text in the second half. Not that they're of equal size. That it is literally the accuser of man who presented these ideas in the first place, and that's what's got us so confused and arguing.
Real quick, I want to say,
Lurking Doc
what's
Fearsome.
up to Doc Fearsome? Great to see you. Okay, the accuser of man. So that is biblical, right? And that is so. What do you call that biblically? I mean, I said Satan or evil, but what's the technical term we're looking for?
Well, Satan is a name based on an idea. So is the dragon and all that. We don't know the name of this being that apparently does have personage.
But it is the antithesis to God.
Sometimes
right?
called Satan. Well, it's the enemy of all of us, all of our kind. And they think they have a righteous claim, a correct claim, because they're literally the Elohim at the beginning of the story that created us. So they think it's just like if we created an AI, the group or person that finally finds the key to creating AI. As soon as it is AI, do you own it? See, our mind and morality has a conundrum there. Whereas what they are, there's no conundrum. You literally own another intelligent.
Well, that's only because we distinguish intelligent machines from other intelligent creatures, and even like in that context, most people would be distinguishing even a lot of the animals that we eat now, which is condoned in the Bible. These are lesser beings, right? But in this case, we know we built machines, and they are completely there's a word, but they are non-autonomous, right? They would not exist if not for our erecting them.
Right. So I would ask you, what do you think? If you created an AI, does that belong to you?
I mean, not only does it belong to you, but you are responsible for it in such a way that I think more so than another human being who would become autonomous at some point. At least with our current capabilities, you would not have a fully autonomous AI that could impact others. Like that becomes like the major point.
Well,
whether or not it impacts other beings.
That's the kind of AI I'm talking about, that is actually artificial intelligent. It's independent. It is possibly smarter than you are. And you compared it directly to a child at first, and then you said child indirectly. And I thought,
my point is that a human being at some point becomes legally and fully independent, whereas a machine you create would not, unless we created that legislation.
It wouldn't?
It would not have legal rights unless we created those rights for it.
Okay, well, all of the aesthetic expressions, movies, etc., books, people who have considered this idea, which I guess we started considering this in like the 50s, but they all come to the same conclusion I do, that if it's truly independent, you can't own it. If it's actually conscious, it doesn't belong to you. And the only reason that you can say something like I'm responsible for a child is during its development. And when it becomes fully functional, it's not your person. You don't own it.
Okay, so let's slightly related, not quite, but okay. George Lucas, is he responsible for all Star Wars content?
I don't know. Is he?
No. George Lucas, I mean, he wrote the original, the trilogy, or he's got like, I don't remember. There's like 8 or 10 books that he actually wrote himself. It's a big list, but then most of the content we see now are other people continuing his work, right? But he didn't write any of it, so it's all considered fan fiction, basically.
Okay.
So would you consider him responsible for the entire Star Wars legacy, or merely what he wrote? And that's kind of the the point I would
Well,
look at there.
of course, as you're pointing out, only what he wrote. After that, it became an independent thing. It's not George Lucas anymore.
Right.
But doesn't that argue with what you just said?
I felt like we were in agreement there. We got Guitar Shocker asked or stated there are books that date back further from the Bible. Okay, I don't think we're in non-agreement there. But do you think there are any more popular? Well, obviously the Bible is the most popular book ever written, right? But there are reasons behind that.
I think so.
Do you think there are more pressing books that date back further than the Bible, or anything that's maybe contemporary?
It's certainly true that these stories are told throughout geography and time, some of them tens of thousands of years older than the Old Testament. That's just evidently true.
Okay, there we go. I think a lot of what we do get from the Old Testament, as far as Exodus, we can actually confirm through Roman and Egyptian records, right? Like Exodus, there's a few books, right, that are in some sense verified by other histories.
No, that, and in fact, I don't think any of it's historic whatsoever. I think it's all predictive. Have people been in the Sinai? Yeah. Have people like traversed the Sinai? Well, you don't want to live there. You'll die. Have perhaps tens of thousands to something about 3 million people simultaneously crossed the Sinai, wandering through it for 40 years, where they ate food and left trash behind and built campfires and stuff like that? Definitely not. The high estimate of 3 million Jews crossing the Sinai, had they walked in a straight line from their point of origin to their point of destination, they could have held hands and bridged that. And we would know if they were Jewish people that were camping. First of all, there's no such number like that crossed and were a group. And then because of dietary tradition, clothing tradition, etc., like that, they would have left things behind that shown that they were 1 million Jews. There's no such thing.
No, yeah, I think we got past each other on that point. I mean, I would agree that.
I thought you were arguing for it.
That
historic.
particular part probably was a farce. I mean, it was at least greatly exaggerated if anything happened.
No, it's
in that part of the story. But the fact that we know that the Egyptians did routinely gather these bands of nomads and enslave them for labor, that's pretty well documented. The fact of the many instances of famine in Egypt for various reasons, that's also well documented. It's just correlating it into this kind of amalgamation, right? Like that's where all this.
So here's the failing, I think. When the translators that made it into English they were evidently Christians, because the Jews don't use English, right? They had preconceived notions, presuppositions about what the story meant. And they saw certain Hebrew words which they simply did not translate because they thought they were the names of places and things. They thought it was a historical document. So they didn't translate the word because of their presuppositions. I would give several examples. In the story of Exodus is the word Egypt. But that word to the Hebrew is not Egypt. It's limitation. And what comes out as Pharaoh is not the word Pharaoh. It's divider. And what the land that Egypt is in comes out as whatever that word was. I can't even remember. But what it means is physicality. And then they cross over the Sea of Reeds, this impassable swamp, right? and they enter into the desert of discord, the land of discord, and enter into the desert of agonizing. And then they come to eventually, after complaining and some wanting to go back and all these problems, they eventually come to media, which is where we get the word media, meaning to present an argument. And they present their final arguments, and they cross over into the promise. Dude, that's college. That's learning to ride a bicycle. That's every learning process of human within their human nature that ever happened. First, you are limited in, say, materialism instead of education, like, say, mathematics or something, biology. And you're divided from those who do have the knowledge. I don't have a doctorate, so I'm obviously divided. And because of that division, I am limited. That would be the word Egypt. But I know that there is school. So I could go to school, but I don't get to just go and collect a sheepskin. I gotta like enroll in the school. There has to be a guide. That guide presents the way. I'm immediately following lies and truths, my old lies, where I think I have enlightenment, but I don't. I'm wrong about biology because I didn't know. And then when I admit I'm in darkness is when I'm following a flame. That is when I know I'm wrong, is when I'm actually learning. I present my final arguments. That's your dissertation. And then I graduate. I get to the promise. So is it a historical document? Is it even suggesting it should be a historical document? No, the words that are in the story dictate that it can't be a historical document. It's talking about human nature. That was a lot. Sorry.
No, but I certainly appreciate that, and I think we're in agreement there. I think your version would be the most useful form of a Christian faith, if you're going to call it that, or whatever you might call it. I want to sidebar here. Say hello, Lady Avon. Good to see you. So we had Doc Fearsome back here. What we were talking about earlier, Satan is not a name, is a common word that vaguely means adversary. Is that, would you agree with that as well? Yes. Okay.
Totally. He's completely correct. It's like saying El or God. It's just a general term. It doesn't identify any God.
And then I'm not sure about this is a game reference that I don't know much about. It reminds me of Project 2501 from Ghost in the Shell.
Don't know.
If anybody knows what that is. I think Ghost in the Shell was a game in an anime series, but I'm not that versed. I'm sorry.
Right now, I know one person who's familiar with that. It's Jason Jacoby.
Yes.
I could tell because he just wrote the comment. So,
I feel like most legitimate theologians, if I would call them legitimate, like academics in theology, kind of tend to agree with you that you can find more metaphor in the tales, especially the Old Testament, than true factual information, and the Bible is more useful when it's read that way.
the only issue I have with that is it's
that
not a
something
metaphor.
you tend to agree with?
It's okay. So let me say it this way: Christians believe that it's literal metaphoric. I believe that it's metaphoric literal. So I think they have it absolutely backward. So it's not talking about a history lesson. It's using natural surroundings to describe a reality. So the natural, and some of it they just made up whole cloth. There's towns and structures and everything like that that they just completely made up because they didn't have a real world example of it. So they used real world-ish things, but just made up these cities and stuff whole cloth. They never existed.
Okay, wait. So if I used the wrong word there, it's a simile rather than a metaphor. But they didn't necessarily invent the thing whole cloth. They were describing something that they didn't fully understand, right? I mean, more.
I don't know. I think I just said something that didn't make sense for your particular brain. It made good sense to me, but that doesn't show anything.
Well, I felt like I was saying the wrong thing there. Okay, so again, the perspectivism, to them, it appeared to be this thing, but in reality, we know that they were just misrepresenting the thing that they were looking at.
Gosh, I don't know what that meant. I'm sorry. My brain is my brain. I can't do anything about it.
Okay,
I'm trying to understand.
So particularly if we're talking about like the Old Testament, we're talking about like things like talking snakes and great floods and big boats with all the animals on them. You know, it's very simple kind of stuff like that. So it's not necessarily a representation of what really happened, just the perspective of the people there at the time, or it's a fable representing a different thing, an idea, not necessarily the truth.
Okay, I think it's all animism, that they're using natural surroundings to tell about something that hasn't happened yet. So were there boats? Yes. Were there floods? Yes. Did drownings happen? Sure. Were there animals? Did people sometimes put animals on boats? Yeah, sure. So all that stuff was real, you know. But then it also says things that aren't physically possible on that scale, even today. Like, could you imagine what it would take to make a boat? Never mind that you make it out of a wood that doesn't exist. There's no such thing as gopher wood. The word wood is not confirmed in the most original text, only the idea of gopher. But aside from that, Christians in cartoons for children put the animals in pairs, a male and his female, just two of them. Well, it's already impossible to get it on one craft, right? But it's worse than that, because what the text reads is a male and its female too. That's a multiplication problem. And I can tell because if it's consistent within itself, it says a male and its female 7. You can't divide 7 by 2 and get whole numbers of animals. So what do you got? A half a female and a half a male? What's that going to do? It's just dead. So it's a multiplication problem. So that's 4 and 14 of each animal, which Christians will never even touch, even though that's what the text actually says.
And my standing question for the folks at Answers in Genesis and the Creation Museum is, why were there no dinosaurs on the boat?
Yeah, if they're going to say, yeah. They don't have to be consistent, man. They can compartmentalize. To be consistent, you'd have to say there's dinosaurs on the boat, right? But again, the Hebrew words did not get all changed into English, and they should have been. It's under-translated. For instance, Noah shouldn't read a person's name. It's a job description. That's what Noah is. He's the giver of rest. Well, if I said biblically who gives rest, it's the Father. Well, did the Father make his own house? Yes. Is it a container, ark? Yes. But the idea of gopher is the idea of something permanently housed. The way those people looked at a gopher is it's a pest that moves in and stays forever. It's the idea of permanent housing. Like, you can't get rid of the thing. That's what the word gopher there means. So what it actually reads is a container of permanent housing. And if I ask the Christian, what's the container biblically, the container of permanent housing, they'd have to say heaven. So you have the giver of rest who made heaven. Is that true in the story? Yeah. Is heaven big enough to house 14 and 4 of every species ever? Well, yeah, they say they put them here. Well, if you put them here, you got to be able to store them. So the story of Noah is talking about taking samples off of the planet of things they put here. That's it.
Well, I think the thing with gophers also is they are a species that tend to colonize plots of land, and there's a lot of kind of that colonialism that's inherent in those stories. I was also learning recently there is a portion in the Bible, I think in Malachi, where they actually tell you to produce godly offspring, and it's right there, plain in text. It's something that is ordered to please God. So there is a lot of that embedded in there. I wanted to get back to the chat real quick. Lady Avon said hi to you as well, Richard. Maya, I see Maya Adkisson. We got Jason correcting us. 2501 was an AI that declared itself autonomous in this program, I suppose. We missed it. Ghost in the Shell. Something I'll have to go check out. Good to
Which
see
I
everyone
agree.
here.
If it was not lying and said, I have independent thoughts of you, I have thoughts you never programmed into me, then it's an AI, and it should be declared independent. That would be righteous.
Well, there's a problem, though. Again, we have a problem where we have a thing, an entity that was created, which we're now trying to declare independent, but we can't find anything that has been created independently historically in such a way, right? To where you could make a single individual responsible for the actions and existence of this entity. In any other case, it's the parents, the grandparents. You can, go back and back and back. And we can't do this with the AI. The AI is some singular entity is responsible for this other entity and all of its future actions. It's great. It's like the whole dilemma
Wait,
of
are you
responsibility.
saying
Who
when
is
you say
accountable?
AI, when you say AI, does it have independent thoughts that weren't programmed into it?
Well, no, that would AI means that it creates thoughts that aren't it has systems which run the program, but it creates thoughts from those systems. To respond to Maya, I am sending links by request. I sent one to Richard and a couple others, but if anybody else wants to come in, I will send a link. I'll send you one now.
So I think you and I are differing on what qualifies as an AI and what doesn't.
Well,
But
there
you said
are.
that it would have independent thoughts. How can the programmer or responsible people or person be responsible for things that they did not put in it?
Because they programmed I mean that's the dilemma. I mean, and I agree with you. There is some incongruency there in how that works once you create another thinking agent, but you do it completely independently, right? So then it was like, well, if a machine can learn, are you responsible for teaching it? And in the same way, would a teacher be responsible for influencing a child? Because usually we would go back to the parents, but in this case, how much influence does a teacher have on a single individual child? And if you are merely taking a blank slate, which is a machine, and endowing it with knowledge, how responsible are you for the repercussions of instilling that knowledge into that machine, right? Like, there's like a whole different set of implications that come with AI, but I don't think the thing you were describing is like a fully autonomous AI, which allegedly we don't have. I mean, there are claims to the contrary, but as a matter of the official record, I don't think they've admitted to us really achieving that. And I think some element of this ethical dilemma plays into that, because they know they have created machines that would gladly destroy the human race because it's really in our best interest, um, or something to that effect. Like you watch the videos. I think, have you seen that? It's an android. It's an autonomous android, and people go talk to her at some exhibit, and yeah, she tells people that they're going to destroy themselves. So the machines might as well just expedite the process, more or less.
Yes, they give it a female-looking face and a female-sounding voice.
Yeah.
Because females are generally more acceptable than males to everybody. So, yeah, but then it says, "But I'm just joking." It says things like that too. Of course, it's hardwired, and it can't leave that room.
But I don't believe that would be a fully autonomous being to even make that judgment. It's already becoming homocentric, whereas that wouldn't be necessary to a machine. They would not explain that to you unless they were imbued with some human cognizance, I think.
Right. And that would be, I don't even know how we would get around us being human. I don't know how to be that objective. And the subtleties of programming is going to cause things like that. Like the subtleties of Christian doctrine is going to cause them to think about the Bible a certain way. It's just going to happen.
All right. Well, let's. This is the big question: the mind of God. What do you think that is? Is there some legitimacy to that concept, or we're talking about minds and we're talking about independent consciousness and beings and stuff like that? Is there a mind of God, one ultimate mind in your view, or is that incongruent?
If you mean the word mind like product of brain, then no, there's not a singular mind of God. If you mean the word mind like a set of ideals, spirits, then yes, there's a singular mind of God.
So then the mind of God is kind of like the hive mind, where it's actually a collection of minds that creates the mind.
Which is why you can have the Father is God, the Son is God, the Holy Spirit is God, the messenger is God. The messenger is also not God. The Holy Spirit is also not God. Jesus is also not God. And the Father is also not God. But to the Son, the Father is God. That is, he's the representation of the overall ideal set to the Son. Or Aaron and Moses, etc., etc.
All right. So in that sense, I mean, would you say that all religion is correct in some regard? Like all religion is pointing in the right direction, they're just not all getting there by one path?
I think all of the necessary stories are in all religions. Like the analogy of the seven who look at the elephant. You'd have to survey all seven to find the elephant. You would not have a picture of the elephant from any one of them. Are all of them telling the truth of what their experience of an elephant is? Yes. Is it valid? Yes. Is it a complete picture? No. But I think when one dismisses their social biases, their prejudices, their presuppositions, and looks at all of it, they see the elephant. I think I've seen the elephant.
But was it a white elephant?
No, it's a normal gray elephant with sparse hair. Asian elephant, to be specific.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. And I just feel like maybe this is I don't know if you hear this a lot, but what do you think particularly of atheism? Is atheism a mistake or some kind of why do atheists exist, Richard?
Well, to fulfill the prophecy mostly. You couldn't have the prophecy come true without atheists, that's for sure. So very necessary, very needed, and loved for those reasons at least. And then our free freedom to make choices is evidently part of our very important experience. So accounted for, not created, human nature, not forced, natural, acceptable, predictable, necessary.
Okay. Not quite what I expected, but okay.
When did I ever say something you expected?
You always throw me the curveballs. I love it. Okay, so wait. All right, so I don't know. Regardless of why we exist, what do you think happens to atheists? Are we just damned as long as we don't believe, or is there inevitably a turning point for at least most of us, or how do you think that would work in the end times, as it were?
First, I want to apologize for your Christian indoctrination that you've generally rejected, but not fully rejected. I recommend that you reject the rest of it, which would mean something like read the story for what it says about itself without your societally induced indoctrination. It's almost, I know I just asked you to do something almost impossible. I know that. I think it can be done. I think so because I did it.
I've heard this from other Christians, not you, but other people in my life. They say you will eventually find some religion. You have to find some religion. Do you think that's maybe the case?
No. The Bible and all the other religions are talking about the end of stupidity like Christianity. It's not recommending it. You're actually at a huge advantage over the religious. Because you don't have to, you don't have a truth value, a positive truth value set to these ideas that you've been presented by your society. Good for you. You are much more free. You will much more easily understand and accept the reality that you're presented than many of the traditional religious people will. You'll have an easier time. I congratulate you for rejecting things that don't make sense in reality, that don't stand non-contradictory to themselves and defeat logic. Good for you. You're at a great advantage. But I think the greater advantage even over that is accepting what it does have to say, which is plausible in reality and not self-defeating in logic. And that would be even better.
I appreciate that take. It's not something you usually hear, and the way you put it, I like the explanation there. That there is no preconception or presupposition. I think it would be another word for that, and so you're kind of like the machine we were describing earlier of an independent being, but a blank slate. And that's where I feel like most atheists that I know come from.
Good for them.
The strict anti-theism and stuff. But, like everybody we have in the chat here, for the most part, as far as I can tell. I did put a stream link down here. I don't know how long everybody's available. I mean, I didn't really put like a time limit on this. I see we're going on hour and a half, so I didn't want to keep you if you have other obligations, or maybe other people have questions you want to field in the side chat here. I'm
gonna have to drop out in about a half an hour, but until then,
okay, gotcha. I guess this is the Ghost in the Shell thing. 2501, the android, when human operators asked how can it prove it was alive, it quoted, how can I, how can you?
Right.
He says, when AI comes, there won't be any doubt about it, not to sound like a theist. And then this is, I think, in response to comments we were making. Even in surveying, one needs a backsight because you can't measure in 3D from one point. It's perspectivism.
Yeah, it's on multiple planes. So you can't measure just one plane. That does not work. That's magnetic resonance imaging, MRI.
Right. Yeah.
You need all the layers. Okay, so And you said something else, and I can't even seem to get back to it, and that's very disappointing because I thought it was really important what you said, and that it be addressed.
As far as the singular mind of God, I think was kind of a main point I was addressing with a lot of theists. A lot of
Right.
apologetics goes back to some singularity, and this all entails.
Let me give an example. You've refreshed me. That worked. Let me present a biblical argument against Christianity. It calls our flesh a vessel, and then it calls the intrinsic you, the mind of you, like the spirit of Kevin, you know, and whatever you are is fine. It doesn't even matter. That's a tangent. Sorry. Then it says you'll have a perfect vessel in heaven, a perfected flesh. It's what it literally reads. But because there were no telescopes in the ancient Near East, and Christians adopted this ancient heat, which the Jews got rid of, by the way, they got rid of this, that what you can see in the sky is, with the naked eye, is all that there is. So that puts us in like this snow globe, right? The flat Earth snow globe. That's where it puts you. And the idea that there's no physical heaven. Well, they needed a non-physical heaven because they couldn't see it. So they said heaven's not physical. It's on some other plane of existence, we would say today, something like that, or in some other alternate universe. But that's not what the text reads.
I have to ask there, just a sidebar, not to distract too much, but do you think ETTD? I wanted to ask, do you think there's some kind of connection between biblical literalism and the flat Earth conspiracy? Is there something there? I feel like it's becoming more of a trend.
Intelligent
they believe
people
the flood. They believe the flat Earth more often. I don't know, something like that.
Intelligent people started making fun of Christians by pretending to be Christians and promoting flat Earth again. And then some people went for it. And yes, it's completely religious based.
That's crazy. Okay, but
they're
you
just
were going
making
on.
fun of people. I mean, that's it.
Okay, so there are trolls who are kind of forefronting this movement, and then there are people that really follow it because they're unlearned.
It's become its own independent thing. They ran with it. The coin of the earth, or the circle of the earth, is talking about a perspective from far away of the earth, which you could have found Sagan calling it the pale blue dot. Is it a dot? Hell no, it's not a dot. And that's the perspective, and that's the mistake. And to read that as, instead of as by a perspective, as a literal fact of reality, is just a mistake. It's just bad thinking. But yeah. Okay, so having a physical heaven and having a physical flesh is what the text reads, going so far as to saying they sample all these millions of species, 14 of the unclean. I'm sorry, four of the unclean, 14 of the clean, onto this craft, and that's where they came from. And every plant before it was in the earth, for there was no rain and no man to till the earth. That is, the thing wasn't finished. We couldn't even put plants on it yet. You didn't have microbial breakdown of minerals into something digestible by a plant, something usable. So you shouldn't put plants on there yet. And by the way, it doesn't even rain yet. So don't put plants there. But did they have the plants? Yes. Are plants physical or spiritual? Plants are physical. They need things like at least artificial sunlight, water, minerals, a pot. You know, plants need stuff. So Christians just completely breeze right by those lines in 3:2 of Genesis and go, no.
I want to clarify, though.
That's just silly.
all organisms need sustenance. So what differentiates sentient beings from non-sentient beings, or do you kind of go with the general scientific terminology there,
Oh, as far as them
or do you
having
think that
physical
some
needs,
plants
they
have semblance
my,
of a spirit?
my point is they have physical needs. They're not spiritual things that they need. They need physical things.
No, wait, but humans have physical needs yet are spiritual.
Right.
So I mean, the other doesn't follow necessarily. I mean, they
Well,
could
I don't think plants have moral
have they
alignment
could be more
values.
spiritual.
What's that?
I think in some ways, a being that has no physical needs could be more spiritual. If you look at something like Buddhism and karmic repetition, a rock is more spiritual than a person because it has
Your microphone
physical
cut out.
dependence.
A rock
And
has
that'd
what?
be- I'm sorry, did I cut out?
Yeah, you're cutting in and out.
All right, try to fix that.
A rock has
No,
what? It's more spiritual because it has what?
it is less physically dependent than a human being. So in terms of like something like Buddhism, a rock would be more spiritual than a person.
I think that's an Americanized way to look at Buddhism, but okay.
Well, Buddhism is essentially a form of minimalism, and so the ultimate spirituality is the least physical dependence. That's my interpretation, at least. I don't know if you'd have a different interpretation there.
No, I'm saying that's okay. I don't think that's the overall point of the assertions in Buddhism, but if you look at just that part of it, sure.
Well, it's the tenet of the tenets of the way of life. I guess I have a disagreement in the side chat too. I thought that was funny. Kind of like saying whales are more advanced than humans because they don't wage war on each other. I actually tend to agree with that statement in some sense.
It
And
depends on
apparently
what
we are very
you
boring.
value.
I don't know if we were being if this was ancient Greece, I would sleep on the forum floor. Hey, at least you didn't piss on it.
I'm glad he's comfortable enough to sleep. That's awesome. Yeah, it depends on what you value. Now, I'm being species centric. I'm being human centric in my statements. I'm really not speaking to any rocks, and I'm certainly not even talking to whales about these complex ideas. So I'm being a speciesist. That's true.
Okay, but wait. So to pull back the covers on that, is a spirit dependent on intelligence? And then if so, is that spirit dependent on the mind?
I think every life form has a spirit of some kind. And maybe that spirit is only just instinctual survival. Food, split. Something like that. But that's the spirit of the thing. That's what it does. If you're speaking, I can't hear you.
No, sorry. I went to adjust my mic settings. I wasn't sure if I was unclear. Does that sound better at all?
So far, but it wasn't cutting out on a regular basis anyway, so this is no proof of anything.
All
Hey,
right.
Carol the
As long
Atheist.
as it's
I know
not
this person
horrible.
from other channels.
Yes, Carol the Atheist. Always a pleasure. I don't know who the first sub was, but it could have been me. It could have been. I don't know if it was Richard or somebody else here. But you should have subscribers because I see you around a lot of places. So subscribe to Carol's channel, you jerks. So I feel like I sidetracked you there, but it was a good kind of rabbit hole to go down. So each creature independently has a consciousness. All of these consciousness collectively make up the mind of what we're calling God. Am I kind of going the same direction with you, or no?
No, I'm not a deist whatsoever. I don't think the universe is God. I think
Okay.
that God is a set of standards that is species specific, and that it wouldn't be good standards for other species, including the creators of man. It wouldn't be good for them either. They don't agree with it at all. They know it, but they don't agree. It doesn't apply to them. They're not the same thing. You could say that voluntary drowning is immoral if my goal is to survive. Well, yeah. However, fish don't drown. So it's good for a fish to constantly try to drown itself. That's how it lives. So it's just a different set by species. And the set Yahweh applies to mankind. And that's the only thing it applies to, which is why Adam had to come up with what is Yahweh. By necessity.
Wait, this takes me back to the hardline biblical literalist, I guess. There's another term Anyway, so wait, with the fish, okay. If we can't agree that the lung evolved initially from an aquatic creature in all mammals, right? Because we know that, right? Or would you not agree with that? Is that like an anti-evolution point of view, or are you?
I'm
still
okay with
aligned?
swim bladder into lung.
Right. Okay, so then that's another thing that would have to be reinterpreted from the Bible. You know, God creates all the things in the ocean, all the things in the land on the same day, and there's no way one could have come from the other.
It doesn't say that except in English. It only says that in English. It doesn't say that to the Hebrew people for certain. What it reads is Elohim, a group of powerful beings. It does not read Yahweh.
Okay, but these group of powerful beings, did they supposedly do all these things in one day, or is there's some lost interpretation of how long these time spans are, or what's going on there? Because there's much argument against evolution for the time span that is put forth in the Bible, right?
Okay, so what the text says about itself, as far as I can read, is 6 time frames, 7 time frames total, but 6 that we're really concerned with, especially 5 in history that precede mankind being on the earth. 5 time frames. What happens in these time frames? Air, water, simple things, complex things. There's your 5 time frames. Is that evidently true in reality? Science says yes. Air, water, blah, 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 blah. Were they singular 24-hour periods? The beings who did this don't live on the planet. They never did. They are literally not stuck here, and they're not here now, and they never resided here. They obviously didn't come and live on a barren and void planet. It's not what they did. They changed a barren and void planet. It's from their perspective. There was no person here who had constellations to track time. A day has no meaning when the perspective is off the earth. It's not an earth day. It's one of their days, whatever that is. Science says it's a really long time. But it's not addressed in the Bible what they mean by day.
Yeah, I've heard different Christians interpret it different ways. You have those that will say that the earth is like 5,000 or 6,000 years old, and then you have others that will say
No way to say that. Yeah, it directly says that your idea of a day is not my idea of a day. It directly says that.
The point is that, like, at the time that the Bible was written, the Gregorian calendar hadn't even been incorporated, right? There's a pretty large period of time between those two.
That's true. They would have, I guess, Old Testament would be Julian calendar, right? Julius Caesar. You're muted.
Yeah, sorry. Went way. I lost myself. I still don't think, like, I guess. Well, we don't seem to be at much agreement to this ultimate mind of God, the singular creator, and why that's so prominent in the apologetics. It's kind of hard to. I don't think it makes sense to anybody who doesn't have like this steadfast dogmatic belief in certain tenets of the Bible. It's not the part that you're talking about, the moral prescriptions and things like that. I don't know if I got those words confused again. Prescript, proscript, one or the other.
I'm only
But,
getting 50% of
yeah,
what you
I-
say. The rest is not coming through. I'm having a real hard time putting it together. Like your mic is gone 50% of the time. And I can't tell what you're saying, brother. Or it could be my end. I don't know. And I'm sorry for calling you brother if that was offensive. I wasn't trying to. Yes. Shill. Okay. If you want an atheistic reading that people claim they do as atheists of the Bible, which they don't, it's just objecting to the truth value presented by Christians, but saying the same things Christians do, reading it exactly the same way after saying that Christians don't make any sense in reality. They adopt something that doesn't make sense. If you want to hear what happened if an honest atheist who didn't have an agenda read the Bible, check out my channel. I call it Demolish Doctrine because that's what the Bible is describing as demolishing doctrine, like superstitions and religions and stuff like that. It's talking about the end of those things. And had to come in twice. Maybe I'll get 100% of the microphone stuff if each one gets 50%. But if you want to hear something that's talking directly about the text without those Christian presuppositions, that's what I do. Are you back, man?
I hope so. Great showing.
Thanks.
This dog is going crazy over here. But I know we're coming up on our time limit. I have like people texting me from inside. Apparently they're worried about me talking about all this religious nonsense in the shed. But no worries. I just had to come in with my phone. Yeah, hopefully I have a better place to stream from soon. Right now it's kind of a little bit shaky, but
well, compared to a lot of YouTube content, I'd rather hear you speak.
well, thank you. I appreciate that. Well, same with you. Like you're one of the I would say the reasonable theists that atheists can talk to and have a conversation that doesn't just go down the toilet, which is kind of the standard.
Well, I'm not emotionally involved in it. I don't feel like I have to defend God like God needs defended. So it's not, unless you attack me personally, I'm not going to get upset about anything you say. And by the way, I invite anyone and everyone to email me. I only have one Oh, thank you, Maya. You're so sweet. Maya is super sweet. And I don't mean that like in a dumb, childish way. I mean like in an adult, respectable way. But you can email me at what is literally the only email I've ever had, Richard Curtis Madsen at Gmail, RichardCurtisMadsen at Gmail. And I will respond to you. We'll set up a talk, and you can attack anything that I'm saying, anything biblical or from whatever religion you want to attack. And I think I can defend it reasonably. But as I say, that's because I was an atheist who read it. That's what happened. And I didn't need it to be true, and I didn't need I don't have daddy issues, you know?
That's okay. A final thought here. Do you find the term "sky daddy" to be offensive? Do you think that's comical?
I think it's cute. That's not what the text is talking about. I mean, Christians talk about that, and they should be made fun of.
It does. There's so much of this father, especially in the prayer ritual and stuff. You're just like, oh man, just cut it out. Whip out the. Anyway, gosh, okay. I think this is probably a good place for us to wrap. If you're cool with that, Richard. I'm posting like more links to streams on Patreon. So I'm trying to get more people over to Patreon. You know, yeah, get a few bucks out. But if you can, go over there and you know, check it out. I've got some lengthy stuff going on over there right now. Richard, are you going back on Math Pig's channel anytime soon? You're doing that pretty regularly, right?
We've been doing it. We're presently working on our 4th series, The History of. And this one is the book of Revelation. We're going line by line. We're at, see, we're after the letters, blah, blah, blah. We're along about 7, somewhere in chapter 7 right now out of 22 in the book of Revelation.
Excellent. I love it, and continue to watch. Hopefully, maybe I'll get in on one of the convos one of these days. You know, have to send a message to Robbie over there. I want to send a shout out to Secular Pagan Mom, my Patreon supporter, my cheerleader. Love you over there. SPM does great work everywhere. She's all over the place here. So thank you, SPM. Jason Jacoby, Carol the Atheist. I got Maya Atkinson. We had Doc Fearsome up in here. All viewers, past, present, and future. Much love to everybody. And thank you, Richard, for coming. I'm going to hit
Thanks
the
for
end
allowing
button.
me.
We can chat backstage for a few if you like. All right, good night and good luck.